how we look at personality disorders is critical. And I think that a lot of us, if we go all the way back, I mean, for me, we're talking over 20 years, training on personality disorders, how to conceptualize personality and personality disorders, we tended to look at it as a very linear construct, right? So that means that personality is personality, and what you see is what you get. Well, the reality is, with personality disorders, it's actually more like an M&M than it is just this linear construct, right? And an M&M got that shell on the outside and it's got the chocolate on the inside. And sometimes on the inside, you have peanuts, you have almonds, you have little Rice Krispies in there sometimes. They had jalapenos out at one time. They had Tunisian vanilla out at one time, strawberry, coffee, all kinds of stuff in there. So, and we don't really buy M&Ms for the shell. We buy it for what's inside, for the peanuts, for the almonds, for the little Rice Krispies, whatever they are. And we have to look at personality disorders in the same way, that it's a dual construct, meaning that we have surface, that's our shell, and then we have core content. And core content drives surface content. And when we look at it, if you notice, for example, and we'll use BPD. So BPD classic core content is abandonment, rejection sensitivity, and emptiness. Now, a lot of those surface behaviors, surface symptoms that we see are driven by that classic core content. Now, when I say classic, it just means that it's very common that that's what I see, but everybody has their own core content or core structure as well. So those three are often there, not always, and there's no guarantees. We know that. But that manifestation, the surface, is what a lot of mental health providers we get caught up in. And we kind of lose our place, right? And because it becomes almost like a shotgun effect is actually what it's called. So the client comes in and they're throwing all this stuff at you, right? I mean, it could be promiscuity, gambling, drinking, drugging, violence, acting out, confusion, abandonment, all this stuff. And you just get overwhelmed. You're like, oh my God, I don't even know where to start. What is going on? And that sense of overwhelm, when you feel it, I want you to remember, oh, this is the shotgun effect, and recognize that it is not intentional. That what a lot of individuals along the borderline spectrum, that they want to get it all out so you can help them. They are treatment seeking. But because we get so overwhelmed, we kind of lose our focus, and then we mistakenly overly focus on surface content, on the drinking, the drugging, the acting out, the violence, the depression, the anxiety, so on and so forth. And then we don't go to the core content. And core content is also protected by defense mechanisms. So defense mechanisms can be reaction formation, denial, could be repression, could be a whole host of factors and issues. So when we go to core content, and I bet you've had an experience like this, right? That you're sitting there with your client, you're kind of, you're moving along and they're telling you stuff and you're figuring it out and all this other thing. And then you provide some feedback, right? Or reframe of something, whatever it may be, or your probe, and you tap into it. And all of a sudden, the whole feel changes, right? The whole feel for the session changes. And you're like, whoa, oh, and you feel it. Now, sometimes that can scare a lot of mental health providers, so they avoid it. We'll go back to this. But what happens is you've tapped into that core content and that defense mechanism starts coming out. Sometimes they lie, right? Sometimes there's denial, sometimes there's repression, sometimes there's power struggles, whatever it may be. But it's important to connect with our clients, right? We have to have what's called alignment. So we have to align with them so we can get to core content, because once you build insight into alignment, that helps you better manage surface content. And this is why it's so tricky, so tricky. This is such a tricky population to work with because of surface content, defense mechanisms, and core content, right? Those three things. That's what I want you to start honing in on. And it is a skill and it takes time to do that. Just like I told that student, on Friday, I told her, I want you to listen to what your client's telling you. And I want you to listen for the themes that she's telling you. Could be classic, right? Could be abandonment, rejection sensitivity, emptiness. There's a whole host of things that it could be. So I said, just keep an ear out. Could be those three. It could be none of those. But listen for what it is. And because first we have to identify that core content. Also, a lot of people get lost because they grab onto this ideal. Now, I'm a huge fan of Theodore Milan. Absolutely love his work. Read a ton, absolute ton of his stuff and love it. Love it. Big fan. But this is one of the kind of inherent issues that a lot of mental health providers hold, which is once you identify the one cause that seems most probable and most significant, then you can design your therapy in order to unlearn what seemed most problematic for that individual. And this is the epiphany, the turning the corner idea that, oh, once we get to this issue, then he or she will be better. They'll be more stable. They'll be able to interact more effectively. They'll use more adaptive strategies, whatever it may be. But the reality is that there isn't one thing, right? We all know there's a lot of layers to us, even personality disorders, because we know there's two. And so we have to realize there isn't that one thing. There are no epiphanies. There is no corner to turn that magically the client is just going to be, ta-da, they're going to get all better. It just doesn't work that way. And this process, as many of you know, is a slow process. It is a very slow process. I work on average with my clients about 4 years. Longest was 8 years. It's very rare that I work with someone 2 years, every once in a great while. But a lot of times those folks with the 2 year thing, a lot of times they've come to me with already some adaptive strategies, already some insight and some other factors that we can build on.